Hey there, soulmates. So much to talk about on this Wednesday, about halfway back to the weekend, a short week for some.
We'll take it.
Seeing as on Memorial Day, you know, it was an off day for some of us. So we've got some conversations to talk to you about, including a lawyer who is now without a firm after assaulting a black woman, and a famous YouTuber who now has to file for bankruptcy. I want to welcome you to FOXSOUL's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte. Plus the changes being made in Virginia to help those looking for work, and seventh grader being labeled a thug for being himself. They're the stories that impact our people.
We're going to bring you our news, our views, and our voice. So let's get into our top conversation for today. In South Carolina, a gas station owner has been charged with murder after shooting a teenager in the back. The Richland County Sheriff's Department arrested Rick Chow on Monday in connection with the death of a 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack Belton. Authorities revealed that Chow suspected the teen of shoplifting water bottles from his store, but later confirmed that the teen did not take anything. During a confrontation, Chow and his son chased after Carmack Belton, and Chow allegedly fired his gun, hitting the teen in the back. The incident, labeled as intentional and not accidental, resulted in the tragic loss of Cyrus Carmack Belton's life.
And Courtney, even if he had shoplifted, does that warrant shooting somebody in the back?
No, and that's what authorities were saying during that press conference, that it did not.
I mean, that is absolutely ludicrous.
It's
ludicrous, and this isn't the first time that there's been an incident. The law enforcement mentions that there was a previous shoplifting incident and assaults involving Chow and his loved ones. They've occurred at that store, and so they just haven't resulted in somebody getting shot. You know, but there have been other close calls at this store, and so you know, this guy sounds like a danger to the community, and so it's a good thing that they did apprehend him.
Yeah, and they gave chase. And chased this boy all the way, you know, down the street to an apartment complex, so a ways away, if you will, from the scene. And it was the son who said, you know, he saw a gun. And at that point, the father shot this young man in the back. And of course, he succumbed to his injuries. Now, you know, as far as the Chow family is concerned, they say they've had plenty of incidents in their store. And so maybe this was, you know, some kind of self-defense or fueled by the fact that there have been incidents in the store before. But again, authorities during that press conference says there's no way that this is any sort of kind of self-defense and that he is being brought up on murder charges.
Yeah, well, moving along, an 11-year-old boy from Mississippi, Darian Murray, who was shot in the chest by a police officer after calling 911, has been released from the hospital. Recalling the incident in an interview, Darian said he began praying and singing gospel songs, believing that they were his last moments alive. Despite surviving the shooting, Darian still experiences pain and difficulties breathing. The Mississippi Bureau of Investigation is currently probing the incident and the officer involved, Greg Capers, and has been placed on paid administrative leave. A lawsuit seeking $5 million has been filed by the family, who are demanding justice and better police training. Yeah,
so, you know, more information has come out because we talked about this story when it first, you know, hit the air, if you will, and it was just heartbreaking. The mother had been having some difficulties with one of her child's father. He came in the, you know, middle of the night, knocking on doors, demanding to see them. And during this response, this baby was shot. And what is just even more heartbreaking is throughout this recovery, you know, physically, he says he still feels pain, you know, in his chest area, but then mentally, he still sees himself in a coffin.
Yeah.
And he still really is struggling with all that happened to him. And when you think about the mind of an 11-year-old and the capacity to not really be able to understand everything, you know, you just have to continue to pray for his mental and emotional well-being.
That's right. That's right. I mean, that was a significant trauma that he endured.
Absolutely.
And you know, it brings a whole new meaning to the song, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper." That was the gospel song that he was singing after he was shot to try and calm himself and try and center himself as his mom was compressing his chest, trying to keep him from bleeding out too much. And so, you know, it's a miracle. It really is. He's a walking miracle.
He is.
Yeah.
All right, in South Florida, Mark Bartlett, a white man involved in a traffic confrontation with black teenage protesters on Martin Luther King Jr. Day in 2019, has been sentenced to probation. Bartlett pleaded guilty to a hate crime and aggravated assault as part of the deal with prosecutors. The plea agreement also includes conditions such as a 10-year firearm ban, 300 hours of community service, and anger management. A racial sensitivity training has been issued as well. Bartlett had previously claimed self-defense, but was found to have acted unreasonably by pulling a pistol on the teenage protesters. Cell phone video captured the incident, showing Bartlett brandishing a handgun and shouting racial slurs at the demonstrators.
Now, let me just say, Courtney, he is extremely lucky to have stumbled upon a judge that seemed to be extremely lenient. Bartlett is 55 years old, and of course, he pleaded guilty to the hate crime, as you mentioned. But you know what he gets for that? All he has to do is perform 300 hours of community service, take anger management classes, racial sensitivity training, and he can't own a gun for the next 10 years. It's hard for me to believe that if Bartlett were black, this story would be different, and I think that judgment would be different. This seems like a very lenient sentence for somebody, who, was in the position to, physically harm folks, was 5 seconds away from doing that. Of course, this is happening in Florida. How much of this stuff do we report on? In places like Florida, where it looks like they skirt around, what folks in other states would have to pay a heavier price for.
Yeah, look, imagine if there was no video. I mean, he got off this lenient with video showing him brandishing a gun, harassing these teenage protesters who seem to be operating within the limits of the law as far as us being in America and being able to protest and talk about how we feel or don't feel. So, him being kind of given this slap on the wrist with video showing how blatant and racist he was being, really makes one take a back, and it really continues to add fuel to the fire that the soulmates should already have lit, especially entering into this election season, paying close attention to what these politicians, black or white, are saying or are not saying in regards to better protecting those who continue to deal with such discrimination and harassment.
Yeah, this definitely just doesn't feel like equal justice under the law. But moving along, a viral video shows a black woman accusing lawyer Anthony Orlick of pulling off her wig while she was walking. Take a look.
Sir, for what reason? For what reason? For what reason did you take my wig off? Because what made you think that was the good thing to do?
No,
what made you think that was the good thing to do?
Please, please.
For what? For what? Why did you do that? What makes you think that that's okay? Is that funny?
After the incident gained attention on social media, Orlick was identified by users as the alleged attacker. The firm, Burkon, Coleo, and Silverstein, LLP, terminated Orlick's employment after confirming the incident. The woman, Lizzie Ashley, expressed gratitude for the support and announced her intention to take action against Orlick with the New York Bar Association.
And I know, within the culture, we have, a lot of laughs when it comes to, wigs being snatched, whether, you snatch them off yourself or they get snatched off or they fall off. I know, Pastor Sarah Jakes Roberts is across the headlines now for a different type of a wig gate, if you will. But this here really leans into assault. You laying your hands on someone, you're causing some sort of bodily harm, and it may not have been physical harm, but you can see how upset and angered and offended and assaulted the victim was. And I call her a victim because I feel it was just that, a violation. And, big ups to Twitter universe, to Facebook world, IG for, doing what really, social media has done and continues to do when people have violated folks, saying, hey, this is who this is. All right, company he works for or she works for. All right, organization they belong to. What you gonna do about it?
Yeah, and I think in less than 12 hours, there was an astronomical amount of play that this got on social media. But, rightfully so, because at stake here is also the dignity of a person.
That's right.
And it's important that we lift that up here. When she was shouting back at him, what makes you think it's okay to do that? What about this sister walking down the street, minding her own business, her hands to herself? What makes you think it's okay to do that? You know, and I think that resonates with folks. I think there are a lot of folks across the country and around the world, and perhaps a lot of our soulmates that are watching, that have been in similar situations where, you know, people feel entitled to touch our hair, to touch our skin, you know, to treat us like we're in a petting zoo, right? In 2023, you don't get to do that, you know, and so, you know, big ups to this sister for speaking truth to power, his employer, and now taking it to the New York Bar Association. And hopefully next time he'll think before he touches somebody.
Well, I think he will.
Without their permission.
And I think anybody who has the propensity to do something like that will think too, because now you're going to be dealing with consequences because, you know, who going to hire him? In theory. All right, civil rights organizations, including the Southern Poverty Law Center and the NAACP, have urged President Joe Biden to implement policies protecting undocumented black migrants from deportation. Now, they emphasize the need for executive actions to safeguard individuals from countries facing poverty, persecution, or war. Now, the organizations highlight the contributions of long-term undocumented immigrants from African and Caribbean diasporas to society and the economy. Specific requests include temporary protective status for nationals from Sudan, Haiti, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, and others. They also address disparities faced by black immigrants within the immigration system.
Visitors from across the country have flocked to a small town in Missouri to witness the remarkable preservation of Sister Wilhelmina Lancaster's body. She passed away in 2019. The Benedictines of Mary, Queen of Apostles, exhumed her body in April and were surprised to find it nearly intact and minimally decomposed, including her religious habit. Though the discovery was initially meant to be private, news of the extraordinary preservation spread quickly. Local authorities and volunteers are assisting in managing the large crowds. Lancaster's body will soon be placed in a glass shrine at the monastery's church for public viewing.
Wow. So initially she was exhumed because they were organizing or putting together a different type of resting place, a different type of a shrine, and she was originally in a wooden box. So why she would have to be opened up to that extent, I don't know. Maybe this was for the purpose of what some in Catholicism might consider a miracle. When you dig a little deep in that thinking and that doctrine, they feel that the lack of deterioration kind of brings about this thought that there's some kind of miracle, some
holiness,
sort of holiness, some sort of anointing, and that very well may be true. I was just interested as to, you know, how the discovery was made, because you can exhume, you know, and keep them, you know, intact, and then, you know, bury them somewhere else. But maybe it was meant to be, and this is a thing. It's really a deep belief. People are taking dirt. You're allowed to take a few handfuls of dirt from the original grave and as a keepsake, and they are really coming and laying hands and praying to and for and over this woman.
I mean, it definitely brings Black Don't Crack to a whole nother level, you know, but I don't know, there's a part of me that thought this is a little strange. I mean, like, okay, they exhumed the body, but like, you know, you all are flocking to her as if she is, you know,
a saint.
You know, but as if you're at, you know, a zoo, you know, like, you know, you're touching all over the body and taking dirt. I just think it's weird. I think it's weird. I think it's strange.
I think it's weird too. You know, I just don't understand, why did they have to open up the coffin? You know, as far as what they were planning on doing, you take it and you take the coffin, you know, and you place it to wherever you gonna place it. I don't understand the opening. Maybe they wanted to make it, I don't know. I would give you weird.
I don't understand that, but, you know, I don't understand why visitors got to touch all on the body.
Well, they say they're going to now encase it, I think, in
now
something
they are,
see-through.
but like over 1,200 or 1,800 folks have already visited this. Like, I just think it's strange.
I agree.
I'm going on record saying it's strange.
I agree.
What is it? It's strange.
I'm not undermining the belief and the spirituality of it all, but you know, she should have been kind of like set aside and respected to where people, I mean, you're right, they're all up on her and everything. It's a little creepy.
Look, I went to Catholic school.
Same here.
You know, I never read or seen anything like this. I think it's strange.
Still ahead, one short-term rental owner is speaking out, and it's causing quite a debate.
That's right. We'll tell you why she says she'll never rent to Black Americans again.
Uh-oh.
You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report. More when we come back.
And we welcome you back to FOXSOUL's Black Report. The parents of a 7th grader at Calvary Baptist Private School in Slidell, Louisiana, raised concerns after the principal, Angeline Messman, questioned their son about his braided hairstyle, suggesting it represented gang affiliation.
The incident came to light when the boy's mother asked him about his day. Despite the hairstyle adhering to school policies, the family decided to transfer him to another school due to the principal's alleged lack of cultural understanding.
That might have been best. Research has shown that discriminatory practices targeting cultural expressions such as hair violations disproportionately affect Black students and hinder a diverse and equitable learning environment.
Oh, how many times are we going to go down this road? I mean, again, in 2023, a school principal is asking if that hairstyle, that braided hairstyle, has anything to do with a gang affiliation. Now, I would venture to say this principal probably wouldn't have raised that question if the kid was white. Probably wouldn't happen. You know, and these days, let's not act like there aren't white kids out there, you know, with cornrows or with braids.
Or would she walk up to an NBA player, a star NBA player, and ask him that? There are plenty of those, you know, up and down the court who are still wearing braids or that type of style. Listen, there's a problem there. Dug a little deep. So this young boy did not violate any school policy, but they do have rules against locks and afros over a certain height. So they put the baby in a new school. Hopefully that school is a safer environment for that young baby to express himself the way he chooses to and the way his parents allow him to. And we move on, but we don't forget that we're still dealing with this nonsense.
Well, but I actually wonder about, you know, what's the environment like for Black kids that are still at that school, where maybe their parents can't afford to move them to another school. You know, I think they should take a second look at that policy. I hope that somebody from that school board is watching FOXSOUL's Black Report, you know, and is inspired to look into this, because
I agree.
You know, I absolutely see how that can be discriminatory toward Black kids, right? Who are just deciding to wear their hair, you know, in a style, you know, that they choose to wear their hair in.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is downright offensive. And I actually think the principal's response was cowardice, because remember, in the story, the principal did not initially respond to the parents' inquiries. They had left several messages for the principal. And so, you know, they did what, you know, good parents do. Roll up.
Yeah.
They rolled up to the school.
So, and removing their child from this school was their solution. And I agree that for the parents or the Black kids who are left, clearly, you know, you see these policies in place, and maybe they need to be inspired or encouraged or angered enough to roll up on this principal, especially if their child of color, you know, remains in that school.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's work to be done on all levels, whether that child stays or goes.
So when people talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, this is the kind of stuff that doesn't make us feel like we belong. Moving along, the owner of Rustic Mountain Living Rental Company, known as the Barefoot Mountain Lady, shocked social media by stating that she will no longer allow short-term stays due to her frustration with the alleged misbehavior of Black American guests. In a TikTok video, take a look.
I'm not saying not all Black Americans are bad, but the ones that came to my place have been nothing but problem. Only 2 good ones came here, all of them. Fight late at night, not with me, with each other. They're disrespectful, they're entitled, they're unappreciative. And it is that way because America has spoiled them and give them so much free where they think they could come to Jamaica and get the same free out here and be nasty about it.
She expressed her negative experiences with most of the Black American guests, describing them as entitled, unappreciative, and disrespectful. The video drew criticism for perpetuating offensive stereotypes and for the owner's lack of hospitality in the hospitality industry. Despite the backlash, the owner remained unfazed, laughing off the criticism and showing no remorse for her remarks.
Yeah, she said, you can say what you want to say, you can block me, you can, what have you. I said what I said type of a stance. And look, there might be, some credence to what she's saying. She's not talking about me, Courtney Hicks, Lanier, African American. I mean, I know how to go somewhere and treat something with respect and leave it the way I found it. So she's not talking to me, but obviously this has been her experience. So maybe there are some soulmates out there who need to, check themselves and understand that, there's a level of respect and when you're in another country, especially, and Jamaica's on that hold up a minute, check it list as far as travel advisories are concerned, to go and just to clown in another country where you're susceptible to, their culture and what they deem as, maybe right or wrong or mannerable or appropriate, and not to really sort of kind of adjust or just flat out decency in regards to being in somebody else's space. So I'm not for or against. I understand her point. I'm not that type of soulmate, but I believe that that's been her experience. She owns it, and if that's what she chooses to do, then you're gonna have to find someplace else to stay when you go to Jamaica, and hopefully you'll treat that place with some respect.
Yeah, and if we zoom out a little bit, I mean, it's not unusual for this to be a criticism that Americans get abroad, right? And so this isn't just limited to Jamaica or the Caribbean, right? There are plenty of stories that we see in the news, of Americans behaving badly abroad, right? And so I certainly don't think that, some Black Americans in Jamaica are any different, but it's important to point out that in the video, she said, I'm not talking about all Black Americans.
That's my whole point.
And so for all the people that, where the cortisol levels have gone up, people rolling up their sleeves, ready to fight, she's not trying to pick a fight with all Black Americans. She's just saying the ones that she has experienced, that have come to her property, have left her with a bad taste in her mouth. And, we're heading into the summertime where, people are going to be taking vacations to all sorts of places, including Jamaica. And so this is just a reminder, be a good guest. Be a good guest wherever it is that you go.
Job opportunities for our soulmates in Virginia just got better thanks to Governor Youngkin. The governor has set in place a policy that will make a big change in the hiring process, as he has eliminated the requirement or preference that applicants for many executive branch jobs have a higher education degree. Now, the governor says this will improve hiring processes, expand possibilities and career paths for job seekers, and enhance the ability to deliver quality service.
I mean, look, it's important that we give credit where credit's due. Governor Youngkin, Republican governor of Virginia, is doing something that governors in other parts of the country are doing or thinking about doing. Former governor of Maryland, Governor Hogan, also Republican, did something similar in Maryland. We know that there are governors in other places across the country, including Utah, Colorado, North Carolina, New Jersey, that are considering doing similar legislation. And even, this is how bipartisan this is, because sometimes a good idea is a good idea. Former President Barack Obama in March, he tweeted, here's an example of a smart policy that gets rid of unnecessary college degree requirements and reduces barriers for good paying jobs. I hope other states follow suit. And this was him responding to a report that the governor of Utah, Pennsylvania, and Alaska were following Maryland's lead. And so this is a good thing. This is a good thing.
I beg to differ. And I beg to differ as, the soulmates who are on the other side of a degree, who were told this is what you do to do better and to get better and to move along in your career. This is what you need, who still are paying student loans on top of student loans for that degree, to now say, you don't really need one. It's cool, So that's where I stand. I appreciate it. It's going to give others opportunities to, come into situations that maybe they would have never been able to, assess, if you will. But I also think it's kind of like a slap in the face for those who went the American way, which is get your education so you can move up in your career. And I also think it might affect salaries. If you don't have most times you get the higher salaries because you are degreed. Is it a play to bring down these salaries? I don't know. I just think it's a little bit more loaded. That's all I'm saying.
That's a good question on the salaries, but you know what? It isn't all jobs. It's making a lot more jobs available without the college degree requirement.
Which is a good thing, however.
Right. And so as long as it's not all jobs, jobs, right? So that college degree is still going to be valuable for those other jobs. But this is going to create opportunities for some soulmates out there. Moving along, there's new research that shows a link between racial bias and AI technology in major industries. Those looking to expand artificial intelligence often point to its potential to stimulate economic growth, increase productivity, lower costs, and create jobs. But experts are also concerned that the growth could exacerbate racial and other inequities, saying that there is ample evidence of discriminatory harm that AI can cause to already marginalized groups. Plus, its experts say that bias is in the data that's used to train AI, with often unrepresentative data for people of color, women, and more.
Yeah, you and I, Nicola, we had a big conversation about this as this topic really begins or continues to dominate, conversations. Listen, the AI, I really don't have too much of a problem with it. We're already living in the age of AI, whether we recognize it or not. Should it be programmed to the point to where it's taken, it's taking away from the human experience or the human touch? I got a little problem with that. And then I don't really blame the AI. I blame the programmers. What are these people who are putting these AI programs and all this coding together? What kind of implicit biases are they bringing to the programming in regards to the results, whether it's some kind of poll or research or whatever the AI is doing to sort of kind of mess with the results, where we're getting the type of implicit bias that we're getting. So I go back to the creators and their mindset and their intention or lack thereof in regards to the results that we're getting in regards to AI.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that this technology is not neutral. Mm-hmm. And we oftentimes talk about technology as if it is neutral. So you're right, the programmers are not neutral, and so therefore what they're programming cannot be neutral. I mean, we continue to live in the age where technology is transforming how we live. It's always been the case. Think about before we had the automobile, before we had a microwave oven. Even right here in the studio, as we're bringing this show to you, our cameras are powered by robots. Mm-hmm. And yes, there are human beings that input what they need to do, right? But they're powered by robots. And so technology is always evolving. But we just got to make sure we do it in a way that has a respect for human life, that has a respect for, the dignity that people find in work. Because, if we have technology doing everything, at some point, well, what are we going to be doing?
Yeah, I don't know. And maybe a part of the answer is to make sure that the AI programming coding department is diverse. So we can, balance out, or rid ourselves of the implicit bias, which seems to be a big part of this conversation in regards to the development or the evolution, if you will, of AI. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on it and our hands in it, because this is the future, and the future is now. And our stage manager, Steve, is definitely in person, and he's telling us to move on. Love you, Steve. Coming up, a family making history on Wheel of Fortune.
That's right. We'll introduce you to the grandma and her grandson who stole America's heart while winning a whole lot of money. We're going to tell you all about it. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. Be right back. Welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. Well, remember Christian Cooper? Yeah. He's the black bird watcher who was falsely accused in 2020 by a white woman of harassment in New York Central Park.
Well, now Cooper has scored a TV show airing on National Geographic Channel. The Nat Geo network recently made the announcement saying Cooper will guide viewers into the world of bird watching. A premiere date has not been released just yet. There will be 6 episodes that are in the works now, and the New York Times is reporting all of this good news.
Mm-hmm. Cooper, who is 59, became an avid bird watcher at age 10, growing up on Long Island, and wants to share his passion for studying birds, a branch of zoology named ornithology.
And you learn something new every day. Talk about poetic justice, out there minding his business. And this is the case where wasn't the woman doggone near choking the dog to death on the leash? Talk about poetic justice, and when, you know, something sometimes that has a tendency to be tragic or very dark in your life, how, you know, the universe will turn that thing around and make it work for your good. This has to be exciting. It's a hobby that now is turned into a career. He's going to be appreciated for it. He's going to get a bag for it, and it doesn't get any more elevated than the National Geographic Network.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, listen.
I mean, I'm just really excited that he has made that a teachable moment for so many. You know, that experience that you know, had to be trying and traumatic in some ways. You know, he has turned that pain into power. You know, and he's going to be introducing so many more soulmates, so many of us, to the thing that he loves, bird watching. He's been doing it since he was 10. I think he's also part of the Audubon Society, and I know that they've internally been struggling, you know, around whether or not to distance themselves from one of their founders, you know, who, you know, was an alleged sort of white supremacist. And so I know that he, as a leader within that organization, has played a role in those conversations.
Yeah.
And so it's really good to see him, you know, using all of the attention to try and move us all forward.
Yeah, and that's my takeaway is, and I've been in this situation before, don't be so quick to run from the broken places. That, how he was offended, if you will, or accused, was a broken place. But he stood in that thing very still and with a lot of dignity while she choked her dog and went through her 1-2-1-2, and God did the fix on it. And now he has his own show on the Nat Geo channel, and it just doesn't get any better than that. So big ups to him. Let's talk now about some black girl magic. Sarah Mensah made history when she became the first black woman vice president at Nike North America. Now she has been promoted to the executive to president of Jordan brand. This creates another footnote in history as she becomes the first woman to serve in this role and the first black woman to become Jordan brand president. Years before Mensah made her mark at Jordan brand and Nike, she worked as the vice president and chief operating officer of the Portland Trail Blazers from 2009 to 2012. During her time in that role, the Trailblazers revenue grew by about 105%. And I think Nike is up in that area. So she's probably been on display for a while as far as her goods are concerned. And now Nike is saying, hey, come on over here and make this thing happen for us.
This is great. I mean, I think this is great. And you know, at a time where oftentimes you see, you know, black women in particular elevated along the diversity track to, you know, chief diversity officers or chief diversity equity inclusion officer, and that is important work. I don't in any way mean to diminish that work,
right?
You know, but sometimes, you know, that's as far up as we can go, and so it's good to see her, you know, playing a leadership role with such an important brand to Nike. You know, on a different side of the house. I think that is an incredible feat. Doesn't happen by itself. She got to be a bad sister. Yeah. And so congratulations to Miss Mensah.
And if you've got some time this week or maybe into the weekend, we just watched the movie Air that's on Prime Video. Great behind the scenes story. It's only an hour and some change as to how the whole Michael Jordan Nike partnership came about. There was really no woman on the forefront of that, with the exception of Michael's mother, who headed that entire deal, which was monumental and has made Michael the billionaire that he is. And I'm from Detroit, and we used to say Nikes back in the day, so that's why sometimes I get caught up in the pronunciation. I was doing that down south, and they were like, Nikes. I was like, cool it, I'm from the Midwest. All right, as we move on.
Well, the United Negro College Fund is expanding its Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship to help HBCU students. The center's objectives are to build, grow, support, and nurture partner ventures through a multi-pronged approach of education, development, mentoring, and financial support through scholarships and grants and business funding for innovators and entrepreneurs. The UNCF Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship is tapping into today's trends and providing the necessary support to help student innovators, especially those students of color who may not have had exposure or resources to achieve business success.
And a grandma and grandson from Mississippi have made history on Wheel of Fortune. Retta Alexander and her grandson Julian are celebrating having taken home the jackpot on the popular TV game show that's been running for forever. After undergoing a rigorous selection process that involved virtual interviews, the grandmother-grandson duo was granted the opportunity to travel to California and compete on the renowned television program. Alexander's hard work and determination paid off as she skillfully navigated the game, eventually securing a $50,000 bag.
Go ahead, Grandma.
That's amazing.
Go ahead.
Love to see it.
That's awesome.
Grandma
That's awesome.
And grandson.
That's awesome, and that's a memory that they will hold on to forever. I remember, when my maternal grandmother, Addie Mae Thomas, may she rest in peace, when she came to visit us in California, I remember she loved crossword puzzles. And she got me into crossword puzzles. And so we would sit up there in the bed and she'd be doing her crossword puzzle and I'd be doing my crossword puzzle. And so, it's just those sorts of memories.
So you were a professor when you were 2 years old.
Professor in the making.
I know. And that grandson, grandma duo there are from Moss Point, Mississippi, which is over there by Biloxi and not too far from Mobile. So those are my old stomping grounds, a great area, great food, great people. And so I know they are like hometown heroes right about now.
I believe it.
And everybody probably asking for a little bit of, after Uncle Sam, asking for a little bit of that,
hometown
little bit
loan.
of that bag. That's good, a hometown loan.
Still ahead, there are reports that Jamie Foxx is making a speedy recovery.
But what's he doing for the community that has everyone talking right about now? We'll tell you so, mates. For his big return to his hometown and what he's doing for them. When we return, we'll talk more about it. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report.
Welcome back to FOXSOUL's Black Report. Well, YouTube vlogger Tasha K has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy following her loss against Cardi B.
Earlier this week, Cardi took the vlogger to court over slander and defamation. A judge ruled in Cardi's favor, forcing Tasha K to pay the New York rapper for over $4 million. Tasha K has taken the YouTube page several times to say she can't pay the money, which has led her to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And I kind of turned my head because we've talked a lot about this. And I think Tasha K look, Cardi B is just as relentless as Tasha K is being relentless.
And
Cardi B
rightfully so.
wants her money.
And rightfully
just
so.
as much as Tasha K is saying, I don't have it to pay it. Just hush.
You know what?
Tasha. And I can appreciate Tasha K's climb. I've watched it. We started from the bottom, now we're here. But with this situation where the courts have sided on the other person's side, and you're going to have to pay up, just hush.
You play silly games, you win silly prizes. And that's what's happening, right? And you know what? I salute Cardi B, for pushing forward, because Tasha K didn't let up. There were plenty of off-ramps for her before things got to be litigious, before, things got serious in court. She was never apologetic about what she had done. And so, you know what? Cardi B called her card and said, I'm going to hold you accountable in court, and did so and won, and is actually enforcing the judgment, having them enforce the judgment. And so it's a cautionary tale about, watching your mouth, because sometimes your mouth will write a check that your can't cash.
You're behind. And so I just want Tasha K to carry on, Tasha K, but just hush. At least about this. Just hush.
Well, hush and pay up. That's what Cardi B says.
All right, Jamie Foxx is out of the hospital and is recovering, but being sick is not enough to stop him from giving back. The Academy Award-winning actor worked with his close friend, Gilbert Willie, to set up the new courts at Breezy Hill Park. Breezy Hill Park is located in Jamie's hometown of Terrell, Texas. The lighted courts feature Terrell High School's red color scheme. Fox's name is on the center of each court. Surface, FOXSOUL, Believe and Achieve, Terrell Fighting Tigers, and Gilbert Willie Charities are also written near the court's sidelines. Meanwhile, there are reports that Jamie Foxx is making a speedy recovery.
look, nothing is going to stop Jamie Foxx, from doing what he does best, which is giving of his time, his talent, and his treasure. He's never forgotten where he comes from, and I think it's a reminder that no matter what we're going through, we can always find something to give, right? And look at him, extending his increase in service to where he comes from. I just think, it's terrific. And it's even better news to know that Jamie Foxx is making a speedy recovery. As you know, we've reported right here on FOXSOUL's Black Report about, his illness. And the fact that we still don't know for sure what it is, but it doesn't matter because he's getting better each and every day. And, he's also a walking miracle because it's been so touch and go.
I think it's a great give back. I know Shaq has done something similar. I just was reading that in the headlines as well. But and recreationally, young people need some place to go to stay off and out of the streets. So I think, basketball has always been that go-to, football, sports, what have you. But I just think there needs to be a balance with the give back, maybe a building that's renovated, and it's a library where all the books that they're trying to ban are in this library, where the kids can also go. For those who might not be so athletically inclined, can also go to have some recreational activity, whether it be after school or during the summer. So I love the give back, and this has nothing This has nothing to do with Shaq or Jamie, but I'd just like to see a little bit more of a balance with the type of recreational activity structured for these young people.
Yeah, it's good to see. Keep up the good work, Jamie. Moving along, there was a moment on the Sherri Shepherd show that stopped me in my tracks and made me look at the TV. She lost her wig. Literally, take a look.
And I was so inspired by Sarah Jakes because I know how that happens. And so she just inspired so many people. Everybody jumped up and
This was actually a show of solidarity for a preacher who went viral over the weekend for having a wig slip during her sermon. Now, the preacher, Sarah Jakes Roberts, who was giving a passionate sermon in Texas over the weekend, when her wig began to slide off. Now, instead of running off stage, she took it off and kept going. Sherri went on to explain that she was inspired by how Roberts just powered through it.
Yeah, a lot of folks have already been in love with Sarah Jakes Roberts for a very long time. Her testimony is unmatched, and her rise and her evolution through the ranks of Dad's church and beyond has just been amazing. So I've been listening to her from the very, very beginning, and she is just awesome. And for her to take a moment like this and for it to still, the message is still messaging even through, I knew when I saw it, I said, this is about to be a viral moment. And she has taken it and has ran with it herself. I just didn't want what Sherri was doing to be too animated. I just think Sherri could have just sat there and just took the wig off and say, you know what, for the next few minutes, I'm gonna, pay homage to Pastor Jakes Roberts and take my wig off too and do this part of the show without a wig. So the antics kind of threw me off a little bit, but I appreciate and understand the solidarity, and it's a great teaching moment. I'm hoping that people, tune in that would have never tuned in or maybe are not familiar with Sarah and that ministry, and now will not only see that viral moment, but will listen to the message.
Yeah, and what a great message it was. Very much like the messages of her father, Bishop T.D. Jakes, right? And so, he has really passed the baton over to Sarah Jakes. She's done an incredible job. Those are big shoes to fill. But one of the things I love about Sarah Jakes is that she's authentic. She's authentically herself. And so that moment when that wig was sliding back, right, that was real. She handled that in a way that was true to how she would handle things, other things that may happen on stage in real time. And so you're right. I hope a lot more people check in, tap in to her message.
And when you go glueless, you have to stay alert and vigilant when you go glueless. All right.
I don't know anything about that
I
ministry.
do. A third man has been charged in the shooting death of Run DMC's Jam Master Jay, who was killed back in 2002. Wow. A grand jury indicted 49-year-old Jay Bryant in the 2002 death of the hip-hop legend, whose real name was is Jason Mizell. He was already in custody on unrelated drug charges. 2 other men were previously indicted on the deadly recording store shooting. Investigators say DNA evidence found at the scene led them to this particular man by the name of Bryant. Long withstanding case, and it's just reminiscent of, you know, who shot Biggie, who shot Pac, you know.
And it's also a reminder you can run but you can't hide, right? I mean, how many years later after this murder, you know, they found this sort of third suspect, and so, you know, we hope that justice is served. Well, up next, y'all already know what it is. Black excellence.
We're going to introduce you to one of the youngest professors and what he managed to accomplish while teaching. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report.
28-year-old Dr. Eli Joseph is the youngest black professor to simultaneously teach at Columbia, NYU, and UCLA.
Okay. He also gave the ceremonial speech to the class of 2023 graduates at the School of Professional Studies at both Columbia and NYU. Despite his distinguished accomplishments, Dr. Joseph, who you see here, is no stranger to failure and rejection, as he's been turned down by more than 1,500 employers, 30 colleges, and 75 scholarship foundations.
Yeah, through it all, he uses his failures as fuel for motivation to succeed. He recently delivered 2 TEDx talks, and today he serves as an associate faculty in the Applied Analytics program at Columbia University School of Professional Studies.
And he's only 28?
Only 28.
That's a tested, tried and true 28. It's probably the beard. He looks a little bit more mature than 28. But
and check out that robe. Check out that robe. You know, so one of the things I was mentioning earlier is that you always wear that robe. So whether you teach at, you know, NYU, Columbia, UCLA, it looks like he's wearing a Columbia robe. He will always wear that if he participates in commencement. That's the way it works.
So it's your undergrad or your graduate degree
Your graduate, right?
Well, your graduate degree robe. Oh, obviously I'm not too familiar. I had a choir robe, you know, that I could probably wear if I ever get invited to speak at a graduation, or would they give me one? I did speak at a graduation once, but I had on their robe.
They'll give you a robe, and if you have your master's, you'll wear the same stole, and if you have your doctorate, you'll wear the robe from your home university. That never changes.
I never knew that there was some little decorum involved in that.
Sure
so that's
is.
why when you see those clips that everybody in the back has on a different color robe. Okay, Dr. Nicordelai Corte.
But you know, his look really great, but it's just a reminder that no matter how credentialed you are, how many degrees that you have, you know, it's still hard out there,
still a
right?
climb.
I mean, look at how many, you know, applications he's had to put out in order to land where he's landed. And so shout out to that brother. Amazing work. Amazing work.
He didn't need to be my professor, though. He was on the handsome side. I'd have 0 pointed that class, trying to get all that attention.
Bye,
office
Courtney.
hours and everything.
Bye. Moving on. There's a new veteran-owned restaurant in Lake Wales, Florida, that's making quite the splash.
It's not only veteran-owned, but also black and female-owned, and she says she's happy to fill a void in the area. Take a look.
It's a whole different vibe in here.
Wales Point Restaurant and Bar sits in downtown Lake Wales.
I took this road opening up a restaurant, and it's probably the scariest thing in life. My initial vision was just to have the restaurant and bar. I did not think that I was gonna have the amount of entertainment that I have.
Owner Tiffany Davis says it's become a much-needed hub for live acts in the area.
Jazz was my thing. Like, I really love jazz. So at the beginning, when we first started having our live entertainment, it was just jazz and blues. And then I was like, okay, everybody doesn't listen to jazz and blues. We gotta switch it up. So I started switching it up. Then I had pop. And I had a little rock, light rock. I've had country. I have comedy shows.
The live entertainment may get folks in the door, but it's the food that keeps them coming back.
I have a simplified menu. I didn't want to do too much. Fine dining was not in my list of things to do. Primarily serve American cuisine, with Southern style dishes. Most popular dish is probably our shrimp and grits.
And the cooking is in her blood.
That right there is the logo for Wells Point. In the middle is my grandmother. My grandmother is a big part of who I am today.
Another big part is the military.
Actually joined on my birthday in 2002.
Tiffany joined the U.S. Army. It's where she was trained to be a food service specialist. She served in the U.S. and Korea before being deployed to Iraq. She eventually retired as a staff sergeant.
My leadership skills have helped me a lot. It's helped me maintain good employees.
Tiffany says there's always an open seat at the bar for a fellow veteran.
I said, come on, let's, we can sit down, we can talk. We'll probably talk about the military all day. It doesn't matter what branch you're in.
A veteran-owned spot bringing great food and good times to the people of Polk County.
Knowing that I'm able to fill that void of entertainment is probably the most joy I'm gonna have out of anything.
Who put this package in the show knowing we are hungry when we sit at this desk? Oh,
but you know what?
amazing.
And so many things on the menu.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I saw chicken. I saw sushi.
Yeah.
I saw
Them playing jazz.
You right?
Yeah.
I heard some hip hop.
Yeah.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad at all.
Right. Okay.
If ever I'm down
we see
in that
you, Lake
area.
Wales.
Yeah. If ever I'm down in that area, I'm definitely
Road trip.
Definitely.
But it's in Florida.
So
it's tricky.
Well,
It's tricky.
but no, we got to support the folks that. Remember, we had that conversation.
Oh, yeah.
We have to go about supporting the folks who don't necessarily support the nonsense, but live there and still have businesses there.
So
That's
it's okay
important.
to support. Let's support her, but just be mindful when you go into Florida. It's like the Wild Wild West in the East.
So you say. For the full rundown on today's stories and more, you can access FOXSOUL's video on demand and any of our partners. You can even access past shows and other Black-centered content. And don't forget, Soulmates, to download the Fox app. It is free. I'm Courtney Hicks.
And I'm Nicordelai Corte on behalf of the entire team here at FOXSOUL's Black Report. Stay lifted.
And stay safe. We'll see you again tomorrow.